Hey family, we just lost a giant in the world of civil rights. I need to tell you who he was. Before there was a chant, before there was a campaign, before there was a microphone or a movement, there was a door Jesse Jackson wasn't allowed to walk through. On April 5th, 1968, Jesse Jackson stood before a national audience wearing a turtleneck stained with the blood of a martyr. But the men who were actually there called him out. Decades later, he was the only man in America who could get a phone call returned from both the Oval Office and a Syrian prison cell. How did a boy born into a shotgun shack become the world's most dangerous freelance diplomat? And there was a bet. The bet. A 7-year-old boy looked at the father who wouldn't claim him and made a promise that would eventually change the rules of the U.S. presidency. Did he ever get the apology he was looking for? To understand the man, you have to understand that morning in Memphis, the SCLC inner circle, Andrew Young, Ralph Abernathy, and everybody on that second floor of the Lorraine Motel, they were, to say the least, upset. They claimed Jesse wasn't on the balcony. They said he didn't tell the whole truth on TV. They claimed he smeared the blood on himself for the cameras. But Jesse knew something they didn't. The movement was about to be orphaned. It didn't need another mourner, it needed a successor. This was his first quarterback play. He grabbed the mantle because he knew if he didn't, the fire would go out. He chose the stain to keep the spotlight. Now, back home in Greenville, he helped organize what history would call the Greenville 8. 8 black students who challenged the city's whites-only library system. They didn't ask, they sat. They were arrested. And the case went all the way to the Supreme Court, which ruled in their favor. You see, he was a scholarship student who needed a book to pass a class. But the library in Greenville didn't allow his kind inside. He didn't just want to write. He wanted the resource. That's the key to Jesse Jackson. He was never just a dreamer. He was a builder who was tired of being locked out of the room. And right there, standing outside that library, Jesse learned something that would shape the rest of his life. A right without access is just a promise somebody else controls. And that lesson, it didn't stay in Greenville. Jesse grew up in a little shotgun shack with his grandmother. And with the man who raised him, Charles Jackson, that man loved him, claimed him, gave him a name, a spine, and a sense of worth. Charles adopted him right around Jesse turning 16. Changing his name from Jesse Louis Burns to Jackson. But just beyond the glass window overlooking the backyard, in a house Jesse could see but not enter, lived his biological father, Noah Robinson, a man with money, a man with a position, a man who couldn't publicly claim him. And baby, when a child grows up close enough to see opportunity but far enough not to touch it, something lights inside of them. That fire can burn 2 ways. It can burn into envy, bitterness, self-destruction. Or, if a child is loved enough, steadied enough, believed in enough, that same fire can turn into ambition, discipline, and purpose. At 7 years old, Jesse stood on that porch and made a bet. He told the man who wouldn't call him son, "I am going to be more than you think I can be." He didn't have a father deficit. He had a drive that wouldn't let him sleep. Jesse was an athlete, big, strong, sharp. He went to the University of Illinois to play quarterback. But they told him the rule without writing it down. You can run the ball, but you can't call the plays. Black men don't play quarterback, they said, so Jesse did something that told you everything you needed to know. He walked away. At North Carolina A&T, Jesse didn't just play quarterback. He became one on the field and off. So when Selma erupted in 1965, Jesse didn't wait for instructions. He organized, on his own, a 50-car caravan from Chicago to Alabama. No SCLC order, no SNCC directive, no NAACP plan, just Jesse calculating routes, timing arrivals, keeping people fed, housed, and safe. Andrew Young would later say what struck him wasn't Jesse's voice, it was his instinct. If something needed doing, Jesse stepped in, not for credit, for control of the outcome. That's when Dr. King noticed him, not as a preacher, not as a protester, but as a logistical mind in a moral movement. And Jesse was just getting started, because once you learn how power actually moves, you stop knocking on doors and start deciding which ones come off the hinges. The day after Dr. King died, Jesse was on TV in a bloodstained shirt. The inner circle was furious. Let them tell it. The story Jesse told the press wasn't actually how things went. But Jesse saw what they didn't. The movement was about to lose its heart, so it had to find its hands. After the laws were signed, the cameras packed up. That's when Jesse Jackson noticed something uncomfortable. Black folks could sit at the lunch counter now, but most still couldn't afford the meal. The Civil Rights Act gave dignity, but dignity without income doesn't pay rent. And Jesse understood something many movements struggle to admit. Justice that doesn't touch the economy doesn't last. He took the pain and later turned it into Operation Push. He realized that if you couldn't change a CEO's heart, you could change his bottom line. So he asked a new question, not who hates us, but who profits from us. You see, family, Dr. King understood the economic divide and was working on the Poor People's Campaign. He put Jesse in charge of something radical. Operation Breadbasket in Chicago, and baby, this wasn't a prayer circle. This was an audit. Breadbasket focused on one thing: jobs and contracts in Black communities. Jesse and his team studied grocery chains, bottlers, distributors, the companies making money off Black neighborhoods. They asked 3 questions, and every time they said, how many Black managers do you have? Which Black-owned banks hold your money? Which Black companies transport your goods? If the answer was none, Jesse didn't argue morality. He applied pressure. He told churches on Sunday mornings, don't buy where you can't work. When thousands of families kept those Black dollars in their pockets and stopped shopping, profits listened faster than prejudice ever did. Now this part matters because this is where the split began between Jesse and the SCLC. Some leaders believe the church should stay focused on souls. Jesse believed saving souls meant protecting paychecks. Breadbasket blurred lines between protest and negotiation, between ministry and money. And that scared people, not because it was wrong, but because it worked. In 1971, Jesse organized the Black Expo in Chicago, a showcase of Black business, Black innovation, Black possibility. Hundreds of thousands attended, millions of dollars circulated. But Jesse made one decision that changed everything. He incorporated the expo separately. Decisions moved faster, leaner, fewer committees. To the old guard of the SCLC, that looked like he wanted to take over. To Jesse, it looked like efficiency. By the end of the year, had enough of Jesse's nonsense. He was suspended, not for failure, for moving too fast. Jesse wasn't exiled. He and the men of SCLC still spoke, still respected one another, but sometimes there can't be 2 quarterbacks calling plays. Jesse Jackson had learned the lesson Greenville taught him years ago. If they lock you out of the room, you don't beg. You change the rules of the building. Jesse Jackson founded Operation Push, people united to serve humanity. Push kept the breadbasket strategy, but expanded it. Jobs, media, banking, education, political power. Jesse said it plain. We don't want a handout. We want a hand in. And before people realized it, the blueprint for modern corporate diversity, or DEI, Jesse wrote it, not in a boardroom, but in a boycott. And soon, he wasn't just reshaping companies. He was about to challenge a political system that had never planned on hearing his voice. Now, when Jesse Jackson ran for president the first time, most folks didn't take it seriously. They said it was symbolic. They said it was a protest campaign. They said he couldn't win, and maybe they were right. But Jesse wasn't running to win their game. He was running to change the rules. In 1984, he registered millions of new voters, black voters, young voters, poor voters, people who had never been asked before. And by 1988, something unexpected happened. By the second run, Jesse Jackson wasn't a curiosity anymore. He was a force. 7 million votes, second place nationally. But his greatest victory didn't show up on election night. It showed up in the rules. Jesse forced the Democratic Party to end winner-take-all primaries. That meant delegates would finally reflect the people who voted, not just the ones the party preferred. Let me explain how Jesse said it best. Jesse would explain it like this. Under winner-take-all rules, if 13 million voted one way and 7 million another, the 7 million could walk away with nothing, even though that's who they voted for. That sounds technical, but baby, that was revolutionary. Because once you change the rules, you change who gets through the door. 20 years later, a young senator from Chicago walked through a system Jesse Jackson helped rebuild. That moment didn't come from nowhere. It came from years of organizing, negotiating, losing, adjusting, and refusing to disappear. Jesse used to say something that confused people at first. We are not the bottom of America. We are the foundation. He meant this: the people who carry the weight don't always get the credit. Wisdom. Foundations aren't flashy, but without them, nothing stands. In the end, his body did what Jim Crow never could. It slowed him down. Compassion. Parkinson's and PSP took his voice step by step. But Jesse had already said what needed to be said. He had already built what needed to be built.